always wondered, if the day ever came when I had to run for my life, would my legs actually listen to me? Turns out, fear is the best motivator. That night, the whole town of Hadding slept under a blanket of mist, but my heart was wide awake, beating hard enough to drown out every other sound. I kept my head down, hoodie pulled tight, breath shaking as I ran across the empty street. The suppressor on my wrist burned against my skin, hot, tight, unforgiving, as if whispering, "You're still not free, Daehyun." But I wanted to be free. I wanted to breathe without asking permission. I'm an Omega, soft-scented, sensitive, and apparently too easy to break. Or maybe I just trusted the wrong person. Because the eyes that haunted me the most weren't strangers. They were his, Min-jae, my former alpha. He used to feel like warmth, safety, a future I could lean into. Then slowly, that future turned into a cage, and the warmth became a warning. His jealousy was sharp, his temper unpredictable, and his possessiveness, something that wrapped around my throat like invisible hands. I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. I left because I stopped surviving him. The bus station was almost empty, just 3 flickering lights and a vending machine that buzzed like it was dying. I squeezed my small bag against my chest and boarded the late-night coach to the next town. Bukshin, a quiet riverside place Min-jae would never think to look for me in. As soon as I sat by the window, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Outside, Hadding's dim lights faded behind the moving bus, swallowed by darkness and rolling fields. I pressed my forehead to the cold window glass and exhaled. Lavender and rain, my natural scent. Even under the suppressor, I could smell the faint traces of myself. Something soft, something I used to be proud of, something Min-jae used to claim belonged to him. I closed my eyes. No, I whispered to myself. This scent is mine. When the bus reached Bukshin at dawn, the sky was still gray. I dragged my bag through narrow, stone-paved streets until I found a tiny studio apartment above an old tea shop. The landlady didn't ask questions. I didn't offer answers. The apartment was small, 1 window, 1 mattress, 1 creaky wooden desk. But it was quiet. The kind of quiet that felt like healing. For the first time in months, I slept without waiting for footsteps outside my door. The next 3 days, I barely left the apartment. I didn't want new people, new scents, or new complications. Just silence. Just space. But life doesn't really care about the plans of someone trying to disappear. On the morning of the 4th day, I heard it. A soft, polite knock. Talk, talk. My breath caught. My pulse jumped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I shouldn't have been expecting anyone. I walked quietly to the door, heart punching against my ribs. Through the peephole I saw him. A tall guy stood there, framed by morning light. Broad shoulders, messy black hair falling over his forehead. A gentle expression I couldn't decipher. But the thing that hit me first was his scent. Warm cedarwood, faint musk, something steady, grounding, like the first warm day after winter. I stiffened instantly. An alpha. Every muscle in my body screamed danger. I held my breath, praying he would go away. But then he lifted a small brown parcel in his hand and said in a low, calm voice, "Good morning. I think this was delivered to the wrong door." He sounded soft, not forceful, not demanding. Still, my fingers shook. I opened the door only 2 inches, chain still on. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me. Dark brown, warm, focused, but not invasive. "Sorry," he said quickly, raising both hands a little as if showing he meant no threat. "I didn't mean to startle you. I'm Junseok. I live next door." His polite tone made something inside me ache, because I wasn't used to gentleness anymore. I nodded weakly. Thanks," I whispered. He placed the parcel carefully on the floor, stepping back the moment he realized how tense I was. The moment he moved farther away, I could breathe again. But as he stepped back, his brows knit together for a second. Concern? Confusion? And he quietly said, "If you ever need help, I'm right next door." I didn't answer. Couldn't. He gave a small nod, turned, and walked away. But the thing is, Even after he left, his scent lingered faintly in the hallway. Warm, safe, dangerously comforting. And deep in my chest, something whispered dangerously, if Min-jae ever senses this new scent near you, he'll go feral. I squeezed my eyes shut. I didn't want trouble. I didn't want another alpha. But fate always finds a way to pull two scents together. And mine, no matter how suppressed, had already reacted to his. Just once. Just for a second. But it was enough. Enough to change everything. I didn't see Junseok again for almost 2 days. Not because he wasn't around. His apartment was literally next to mine, and I could hear faint footsteps sometimes, the sound of a kettle boiling, the rustle of pages when he read late at night. No, I didn't see him because I avoided him. I kept my door locked. I kept my scent suppressed. I kept my world small. I told myself it was for safety. But the truth? I was scared of how my chest had reacted that first day. How a stranger's warm cedar scent had slipped past my guard and settled somewhere too close to my heart. I didn't want that. I didn't want anything that could be mistaken for a bond. Not again. Not after Min-jae. On the third morning, I went downstairs to the tea shop to buy breakfast. My suppressor was tight around my wrist, humming faintly, keeping my scent dull and quiet. The old tea shop smelled of roasted barley and warmth. Safe enough. I bought a small bun and some warm Misugaru milk and was heading back upstairs when, morning, his voice, soft, low, steady. I froze mid-step. Junseok stood at the bottom of the stairs, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a small grocery bag. Sunlight fell across his hair, turning the messy strands golden at the tips. I swallowed. Oh, hi, I said, trying to sound normal. He gave a small smile. Just a tiny one, but it felt warm in a way the suppressor couldn't dim. You're Daehyun, right? I blinked. How did you? You mentioned your name on the delivery receipt, he said, lifting the grocery bag slightly. I didn't mean to pry. He always talked like that, careful, considerate, like every word was weighed before he said it. It was unfamiliar. Alphas didn't usually talk like that. He gestured toward the bun in my hand. Breakfast from downstairs? I nodded slowly. They have good red bean buns, he added. But avoid the cream ones. They're a trap. A small, startled laugh escaped me. Quickly, quietly, but real. His eyes softened when he heard it. And for one heartbeat, everything inside me went dangerously, recklessly warm. I stepped past him. Thanks for the warning. He hesitated for a moment, then said quietly, if you ever need help, anything, I'm next door. I stiffened, memories of Minji's help, twisting like knives inside me. I'm fine, I said quickly. He didn't push. He didn't insist. He just nodded. And somehow, that made me feel even more uneasy, because kindness like that was something I didn't know what to do with. Back in my apartment, I locked the door and leaned against it, inhaling sharply. My scent, muted but still mine, felt unstable under my skin. Not flaring, not blooming, just restless. Junseok's scent lingered faintly in the hallway, drifting through the cracks like gentle warmth. It made my chest tighten. No, I whispered to myself, pressing my hand over my heart. Don't start. Don't react. Omegas react easily. It's our curse. A warm voice, a steady presence, a safe distance that feels safe only because you want it to be. I couldn't afford that. Not when Minji's shadow still clung to me like a bruise that refused to fade. That night, I woke up suddenly, heart pounding, breath shaky. A nightmare. His voice, his hands around my wrist, his scent, dark, sharp, possessive. I sat up, trembling. I needed air. I cracked open the window, letting the cool night breeze wash over me. But then, something shifted in the air. A warm scent drifted in from the other direction. Soft cedar, clean cotton, the comforting heat of someone freshly showered. My breath caught. Junseok. He was awake too. His window was open. His scent was faint, but close. And my traitor body reacted. Not fully, just a small, unsteady flutter beneath my ribs. Monster. No, I whispered fiercely to myself. Don't. I pressed my wrist against the suppressor, increasing the setting. It hummed sharply, pushing my scent down, compressing it. But the pressure hurt. Suppressors weren't meant to be used like this, not for long, not at high intensity. The skin around the band was already irritated, red, almost raw. Still, I turned it up anyway. Anything to keep things under control. Anything to avoid repeating my past. But the more I suppressed myself, the more my chest ached. Because instinct is cruel. It remembers warmth. It remembers voices that don't shout. It remembers scents that feel safe. Even when the mind screams don't trust it. The next morning, I tried to pretend nothing had changed. I cleaned the apartment. I made rice porridge. I opened the windows to let the sunlight in, and froze. A small box sat outside my door. Not heavy, not threatening, just quietly waiting. There was a note taped on top. For the irritation around your wrist. Junseok. My breath hitched. Inside the box was a tube of medicated ointment for suppressor burns. He noticed. He noticed without me saying a word. My heart thumped painfully, confusion mixing with something dangerously close to hope. But then another thought hit me, cold and sharp. If he could notice, then Min-jae could too. And if Min-jae ever sensed my scent reacting to a new alpha, he would come. He would hunt. He would destroy. My hands shook as I held the ointment. I can't let this happen, I whispered. But when I opened the door to return the box, Junseok was standing right there, as if he'd been waiting. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me, gentle concern flickering across his face. You don't have to use it, he said softly. I just didn't want you to be in pain. The sincerity in his voice broke something inside me. I swallowed hard. Why are you being nice to me? I whispered before I could stop myself. He blinked. Then his answer came quietly, simply, because you look like you needed someone to be. My chest tightened. Too much. Too fast. Too dangerous. I took a step back. He didn't follow. But his scent did soft, warm, safe, terrifying. And deep inside my suppressed instincts, something stirred again. Something small. Something fragile. Something that scared me more than Min-jae ever had. Because Junseok wasn't trying to claim me. He was simply being kind. And kindness is the easiest thing to fall for. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Not because he'd done something dramatic. Not because he'd crossed a line. Not because he'd forced his way into my life. But because he hadn't. Junseok's kindness sat quietly in my mind like a warm cup of tea left on the table. Simple, gentle, and somehow more disarming than anything loud or forceful. I shouldn't feel anything about a neighbor giving me ointment. I shouldn't notice how softly he spoke. I shouldn't remember the warmth in his eyes. But I did. And that scared me. By evening, the sky outside turned pale blue, washed with soft pink across the mountains. Usually, I would have stayed inside, but my apartment felt too small, too full of unsteady emotions I wasn't ready to name. So I stepped out onto the shared balcony. I didn't expect anyone to be there, but of course he was. Junseok sat on the far end, leaning back against the railing, hoodie sleeves pushed up to his elbows. A notebook rested on his lap, pages filled with handwriting and little sketches. He looked peaceful. I swallowed, almost turning back inside, but his head lifted as if he could sense movement. His eyes met mine. I froze. He didn't smile brightly. He didn't make it awkward. Just a small nod. A quiet acknowledgement that I existed. It somehow felt safer than a smile. I didn't mean to intrude, I said softly, fingers curling around the balcony door handle as if ready to retreat. You're not intruding, he replied. His tone stayed warm, light enough that I didn't feel pressured to move closer. So I stayed. Not close. Just there. 2 apartments apart. 2 lives apart. But sharing the same evening air. For a while, neither of us spoke. He scribbled something in the notebook. I pretended to look at the sunset. But the silence stretched between us like a string, thin, fragile, trembling with something unspoken. Finally, he closed the notebook and asked, gently. Are you feeling better today? Your wrist. The suppressor burns looked painful. I blinked. He noticed that too. I'm fine, I murmured, pulling my sleeve lower. I'm used to it. His expression shifted, something like quiet anger flickering behind his eyes. Not at me, but at something or someone else. At that level of burn, he said softly. No one should be used to it. A shaky breath escaped me. Why did he care? Why did that bother him? Was I imagining the concern in his voice? I stepped closer to the railing, mostly to escape the weight of his gaze. I just need it, I whispered. The suppressor. He looked at me for a long moment. Are you trying to hide from someone? He asked quietly. My heart lurched. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. He spoke quickly after seeing my reaction. You don't have to tell me. I shouldn't have asked. It's okay, I whispered. But it wasn't. Not really. I didn't want to say his name. Didn't want to relive those hands, that voice, that scent. So I lied. Or maybe half-lied. I just don't want anyone to smell me. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, like the idea itself bothered him. I understand, he said finally, and something in his tone told me he really did. After a few minutes, I realized I was staring at the mountains too hard, pretending to be calm. My fingers trembled against the railing, subtle but uncontrollable. Junseok noticed. Of course he did. But he didn't comment. He didn't step closer. He didn't reach out. Instead, he said, Would you like some tea? The landlady downstairs gave me extra. It's barley with a bit of honey. My heart stuttered. Something so small, a cup of tea. Something so harmless. But to me, it felt like stepping past a line I'd drawn around myself. A line I wasn't sure I was ready to cross. Still, I didn't want to run again. Not from him. Not right now. Okay, I whispered. He blinked in surprise, like he expected me to refuse. He nodded once. Wait here. He went inside. I stayed frozen, unsure if my legs could move without giving away the fact that I was nervous, ridiculously, pathetically nervous, over a cup of tea. When he came back, he held 2 cups, steam curling into the evening air. He handed me one with both hands, careful not to touch me. Careful in a way Min-jae never had been. Thank you, I said softly. He leaned against the railing next to me, leaving enough space so his scent didn't overwhelm mine. The tea was warm, comforting, almost painfully gentle. You have a quiet presence, he said suddenly. I looked up, startled. Is that good? He smiled faintly. It's peaceful. I looked away quickly, heat rushing into my cheeks. No one had used that word for me in years. Peaceful. Not fragile. Not needy. Not weak. Peaceful. The first crack in my walls formed then. Small, subtle, but impossible to ignore. We drank tea in silence for a long time. And for the first time since I arrived in this town, my chest didn't feel tight. My scent didn't feel like something to hide. My fears didn't feel like they were suffocating me. But somewhere in the distance, under all that newfound calm, a whisper echoed at the back of my mind. If Min-jae finds out, a shiver ran through me. And Junseok, who noticed everything, asked softly, Are you cold? I shook my head quickly, but he looked at me, really looked, and his eyes softened again. Daehyun, he said gently, you don't have to be afraid of me. The teacup trembled slightly in my hands. I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of what he made me feel. The next morning, everything felt too bright, too calm, too normal. And normal was dangerous, because last night, for the first time in a long time, I stood beside an alpha without feeling like I had to run. I drank tea with him. I let my guard slip. I let silence turn soft instead of suffocating. And my scent reacted, just a little, just a breath. But I felt it, a tiny ripple underneath the suppressor, like a flower trying to bloom through snow. I prayed Junseok hadn't noticed. I slept lightly, waking at the smallest sounds. Steps in the hallway, a kettle whistling from next door, wind tapping against the window. Around noon, there was a knock on my door, different from last time, gentler, like the person knocking didn't want to disturb me. Daehyun, Junseok's voice came through softly. It's just me. I have something for you. I hesitated before opening the door just a little. He stood there holding a small lunchbox wrapped neatly in a blue checkered cloth. I made too much, he said with a shy, almost embarrassed smile. Thought you might want some. I blinked. It smelled like seaweed soup, and something else warm and familiar. You cooked? I asked. He scratched the back of his neck. Attempted to. I almost smiled. Almost. But then his eyes shifted, subtle, careful, and he asked, Are you feeling okay today? My heart stumbled. Why? My voice tightened despite me trying to sound calm. He looked away for a second, running his thumb along the lunchbox edge. Your scent was different last night. I froze. My lungs forgot their job. My heartbeat slammed painfully against my ribs. My fingers clenched around the edge of the door. Different how? I whispered, terror curling cold inside me. He immediately lifted a hand, as if sensing my fear. Not bad, not strong, just warmer. His voice softened. More like you. My vision blurred for a second. No. He wasn't supposed to notice. I wasn't supposed to react to any alpha. Not even one who stood at a respectful distance and didn't try to overpower me. My scent was the one thing Min-jae always controlled, always monitored, always punished. And now it was slipping, blooming under someone else's presence. It must have been nothing, I said quickly, stepping back. I forgot to tighten the suppressor. Junseok's eyes darkened with concern, not dominance. Does it hurt you? He asked softly. His gaze drifted to my wrist hidden under my sleeve. I swallowed hard. I'm fine. He didn't believe me. I could see it. But he didn't push. He held out the lunchbox instead. No pressure. Just eat whenever you can. I took it slowly, careful not to brush his fingers. Thank you, I whispered. He nodded once, then stepped back. But just as he turned to leave, he paused and said quietly, Daehyun, don't force your scent away until it hurts. You don't have to erase yourself like that. My throat tightened painfully. I wanted to tell him that erasing myself was the only way I'd survived. The only way to stay invisible. The only way to stay alive. But I didn't. I closed the door and pressed my forehead against it, shaking. When I opened the lunchbox, warmth hit my face. Seaweed soup, rice with sesame seeds, a side of stir-fried tofu. Simple, homey, the kind of food Omegas used to make back in dorm kitchens during academy days. I ate slowly, the taste almost unfamiliar after months of rushed meals and stress. And for the first time, I wondered, what kind of home does Junseok come from? Who taught him to cook like this? Why does he notice things no one else noticed? I forced those thoughts away. No attachments. No bonds. I couldn't afford it. Later that evening, I went downstairs to return the empty lunchbox. I rehearsed what I'd say. Thank you for the food. You didn't have to do that. Please don't worry about me. But when I reached the hallway, Junseok wasn't alone. He stood there with two other men, both alphas. They were laughing about something, talking loudly. Their scents were sharp, bright, unfiltered, and instantly overwhelming. My chest tightened. I froze at the corner. One of them nudged Junseok's shoulder. Hyung, you're too soft for your own good. Did the landlady guilt you into fixing her door again? No, Junseok chuckled lightly. I just help when I can. The other alpha elbowed him. Always the gentleman. No wonder people trust you. I swallowed hard. Trust. A word I didn't know how to hold anymore. Suddenly, the two unfamiliar alphas' scents thickened in the hallway. Peppery, musky, overbearing. My suppressor buzzed uncomfortably, struggling to keep my scent neutral. Instinct told me to retreat, run, hide. But before I could move, Junseok turned his head slightly, and our eyes met across the hallway. In an instant, his expression changed. His posture straightened. His laugh faded. His eyes softened. And then, he subtly stepped away from the other alphas, putting distance between their scents and me. He didn't call attention to it. He didn't make it obvious. But I noticed. I noticed everything. His friends followed his gaze and turned toward me. The moment their eyes landed on me, their sense spiked. Predatory instinct. Natural alpha reaction to an omega. Even the suppressed kind. My breath hitched. But before they could say anything, Junseok spoke. Calm but firm. He's a neighbor. Don't crowd him. Just like that, the atmosphere shifted. Silence. Respect. Distance. The two alphas nodded, stepping back. Then one said, "We'll see you later, Hyung." They left with easy goodbyes. As soon as they were gone, Junseok took a slow step toward me, keeping enough space not to overwhelm me. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, controlled. I nodded stiffly, holding out the empty lunchbox with both hands. "Thank you for earlier," I whispered. He didn't ask what I meant, didn't make it awkward. He just took the lunchbox gently and said, "You don't have to be afraid of other alphas as long as I'm here." My heart nearly stopped. Not because he said it with dominance, but because he said it like a promise. Like a shield. Like someone who had already decided to stand between me and the world. Quietly, without asking for anything in return. Warmth pooled in my chest. That was the moment I realized. If my scent bloomed again, it would be because of him. And somewhere, miles away, I knew Min-jae would feel it. A storm was coming. I just didn't know how soon. I didn't understand what was happening to me at first. All I knew was that my body felt wrong. By the time I finished cleaning the cafe's front counter, my pulse was uneven, my breathing shallow, and a faint trembling had settled under my skin. I told myself it was stress, or exhaustion, or maybe I just needed to eat something sweet. But deep down I knew this wasn't normal. This was instinct. A suppressed Omega's instinct trying to break free. I grabbed my coat, forced a smile at the owner, and slipped out into the cold Buxian night. The wind cut across my cheeks, but instead of calming me, it only made the strange heat spreading in my neck worse. My scent glands throbbed. No, not now. Not again. I wrapped my scarf tighter and power walked down the dim alley. I needed to get home. Lock the door. Breathe. Hide. I couldn't afford anyone. Any alpha. Smelling me like this. Especially not. Daehyun. The voice was gentle, but even hearing it made my heart stutter. Junseok stood by the stairwell leading up to our apartments, holding a paper bag of groceries. His coat collar was dusted with snow, hair damp, cheeks slightly pink from the cold. He looked comforting. Safe. Too safe. I instantly knew that was dangerous. "Are you okay?" he asked, stepping closer. "You look pale." I turned my face away. "I'm fine. Just tired." But the moment I tried to walk past him, my steps faltered. The world tilted. Junseok reacted in a flash, dropping the grocery bag and catching me by the arms before I hit the ground. His scent, cedarwood and clean cotton, hit me all at once, soft but grounding. Too grounding. I sucked in a shaky breath. Big mistake. My instincts flared like fire under my ribs. Junseok blinked, startled. "Daehyun, your scent." He didn't finish the sentence, but I could see it in his eyes. He understood. My scent was leaking. Not deliberately. Not like an Omega flirting. This was the kind that slipped out when an Omega's body felt safe for the first time in years. Or when a new bond tried to form. I jerked away from him instantly. "No, don't come near me." He didn't take it personally. He raised his hands calmly. "Okay, I won't touch you. Just breathe." But breathing was exactly what I couldn't do. My throat tightened. My pulse thundered. Because for the first time in 3 years, my scent didn't smell like fear. It smelled like want. Like yearning. Like an Omega reaching for an alpha who wasn't supposed to be his. My chest constricted painfully. "Junseok, please just stay back," I whispered. He nodded, taking a careful step away. His eyes were soft. Not demanding. Not hungry like Minji's used to be whenever he caught my scent. "Did something happen?" he asked quietly. Yes, something happened. Something terrifying. Something I had been suppressing for so long that my body didn't know what to do with it now. "I don't know," I lied. "You do." His voice stayed low. You're scenting, and your glands are inflamed. I froze. Hearing an alpha say it out loud felt like being stripped bare. He noticed the way my hand flew to my neck. Don't touch it, he said gently. You'll make it worse. I swallowed hard. It's not a rut trigger. Or heat. I'm not. I know, he said. It's something different. Something emotional. My heart dropped. He understood too well. Daehyun, are you scared of me? He asked quietly. I looked up at him, startled. His expression wasn't hurt. It was concerned. Yes? I whispered before I could stop myself. Not because of you. Because of me. Junseok didn't move closer. Didn't try to reassure me with touch. He just kept his voice steady. Then let me help from a distance. The way he said it, soft, careful, made my chest tighten in a different way. A safer way. I can make a suppressant tea, he said. My grandmother used to make it for my cousin. It helps stabilize omega glands during stress spikes. I blinked. You know how to do that? He gave a small, shy smile. I'm an alpha, but I grew up in a mixed household. Omegas were basically my babysitters. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. And that was the moment everything snapped. My scent flared again. Sharp with embarrassment. Warm with something dangerously close to attraction. Junseok's breath hitched. Not because he was tempted. Because he immediately smelled the truth. My scent wasn't just reacting. It was reaching. For him. My palms went cold. Junseok, please. Don't come close to me anymore. Not tonight. He nodded slowly, expression tightening with sympathy. Not pity. Okay, I'll keep distance. But I'm still here if you feel faint again. The sincerity in his voice made my throat burn. He bent down, retrieved his groceries, and stepped aside so I could pass. But as I climbed the stairs, my legs shaking, something hit me like a blow. My scent was out. If Junseok could smell it, then Min-jae would smell it too. My ex-alpha, my broken bond, the one who claimed me once and lost me but never accepted it. I gripped the railing as the realization punched through my chest. He would come. He would feel the shift. He would sense the new bond forming. He would smell the way my body was reaching for someone else. And alphas like Min-jae didn't handle that well. I stumbled into my apartment and locked the door behind me, chest heaving. For the next hour I paced. Drank cold water, pressed ice to my neck, anything to calm the flare. But nothing helped. My scent glands throbbed harder, hotter, like a signal, like a flare, like a call. And somewhere far away, maybe across the city, maybe closer, I felt a ripple through the remnants of my old bond. A dark, familiar force pushing back. A warning, a claim, a threat. My hands shook as I whispered to myself. He knows. My new bond was awakening, and Min-jae had sensed it, and he was coming. I didn't sleep, not for a single second. I sat on the edge of my bed the entire night, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the dark window as if something might appear there any moment. The room felt too quiet, too still, too easy to break. Every few minutes, my scent would spike again, warm, unsteady, almost trembling like frightened wings, and I'd press my palms over my neck to stop it. But omega instincts don't obey hands. Or fear. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt it, a faint, ghost-like thread across my ribs, the echo of the bond Min-jae once forced on me. It had long faded, dead I thought, severed, but now it pulsed, not alive, not whole, but awake. I felt it stir like something sensing danger, or competition. My body responded instantly, curling in on itself, a tiny whimper escaping my throat before I could choke it down. No, don't respond. Don't give him anything to follow. But it was too late. When a bond, broken or not, shifts, the alpha on the other side always knows. And Min-jae would come. My breath shook. I tried everything to calm myself. Cold shower, biting into ice, pulling my blanket around my shoulders until I felt buried. But nothing worked. Because the problem wasn't heat. It was want. Not sexual want. Instinctual want. Emotional want. My Omega nature wasn't looking for Minjae. It was reaching for Junseok. And that was the problem. A soft knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. I flinched so hard I nearly fell off the bed. Daehyun, Junseok's voice. Gentle, careful, like he expected me to run. My heart lurched painfully. Not in fear. In relief. And panic because of the relief. I scrambled up and opened the door only a crack, not wanting him to smell me. He still did. His eyebrows lifted the slightest bit. It got worse. I lowered my eyes. Yeah. He didn't move closer. Didn't even lean in. He stayed at a respectful distance. Hands in his pockets. Posture soft. I made the tea. He held out a thermos. Herbs that calm glands. No sedatives. I hesitated before taking it. My fingers brushed his for half a second. A mistake. My scent flared instantly, soft, warm. Like honey warmed over low heat. I froze in horror. Junseok's breath hitched quietly, but he didn't step back. If anything, he steadied himself, shoulders tensing like an alpha trying to contain instinct instead of indulging it. I'll leave it here, he murmured, gently placing the thermos on my shoe rack. He turned away, but panic punched through me without warning. Wait! He stopped immediately. My voice came out smaller than I meant. Please, don't go far. A long pause. Then he nodded. I'll be in my apartment. If you need anything, you knock. Or call. No matter the time. My chest tightened so sharply it ached. Okay. He gave me one last calm look. Warm, grounding. And I closed the door before my scent could embarrass me again. I leaned against it, breathing hard. Why him? Why did my body choose him as safe? Why now? Why when my past was still watching me like a shadow from behind? I swallowed and forced myself to drink the tea. It was bitter, leafy, earthy. But the moment the warmth hit my stomach, the throbbing in my glands eased. Not fully, but enough to breathe. I sat on the couch, clutching the warm thermos between trembling hands. Everything would be okay. Junseok was near. Minjae didn't know where I lived. I was safe. A shiver tore down my spine. Something was wrong. I stood slowly, walking toward the window. Bukshin streets were almost empty at this hour. Snowflakes drifted down lazily, the lamps casting soft pools of yellow light. Nothing unusual. Nothing obvious. But Omega instinct isn't about sight. It's about threat. And every cell in my body whispered the same thing. He's close. He's searching. Before I could overthink, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My blood ran cold. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. A message appeared immediately. Did you think I wouldn't feel it? My breath shattered. Another message popped up. Your scent changed. My heart hammered so violently it hurt. Who is he? My stomach twisted painfully. I stumbled back and sank onto the floor, hand over my mouth to keep myself from making a sound. He knew. He sensed it. He was coming. A sharper wave of fear hit me so hard my sense spiked again. Panicked, sharp, uncontrollable. Before I could stop myself, I whispered, Junseok, and then I froze, because I didn't just say his name. I called him, not loud, not even consciously, but Omegas don't need volume when instincts cry for help. A second later, 3 rapid knocks rattled my door. Not Minji's, not aggressive, not claiming. Knocks filled with urgency and concern. Daehyun? Open the door. Junseok. My knees nearly gave out with relief. I rushed to unlock it, hands shaking. The moment the door cracked open, he stepped inside quickly. Not touching me, not crowding me, but he looked tense. Something's wrong, he said softly. I nodded, unable to speak. Did someone message you? My breath hitched. Yes. Your ex-alpha? Another nod. Junseok's jaw tightened. Not with anger, but with a protective instinct. I felt like heat against my skin. Let me see the messages, he said. I handed him the phone with trembling fingers. He read them slowly, his expression growing darker. Not possessive. Not jealous. Angry. Because I was scared. He exhaled shakily. He's nearby. I swallowed. You feel it too? No, he murmured. I feel you. He looked at me then, truly looked. Eyes filled with worry, not desire. Your fear is spiking. Your scent is unstable. Your body is calling for protection even if you don't say it. I lowered my gaze. I didn't mean to. He stepped back instantly, giving me space. You didn't do anything wrong. My throat tightened. I don't want you dragged into this. Junseok shook his head. You didn't drag me. I walked here. Something warm and terrifying swelled inside me. He continued, voice soft but firm. I won't let him near you. Not as an alpha. Not even as a person. You're not his to threaten anymore. My breath caught, because for the first time someone said it out loud. I'm not his. Not anymore. Junseok moved only enough to stand between me and the window, as if positioning himself as a shield without touching me. The tension radiating off him was controlled but dangerous. Daehyun, he said quietly. He isn't just sensing your scent. I looked up slowly. Then what? His eyes met mine, steady and warm. He's sensing the new bond forming. My breath broke. A new bond. Mine. With. No. Impossible. I shook my head. It's one-sided. My body is confused. It doesn't mean anything. Can't mean. It means you feel safe, he said gently. And that's enough for him to sense. My heart slammed painfully. Junseok exhaled, voice barely above a whisper. And that's why he's coming. Junseok didn't leave my apartment after that. He didn't say it out loud, but the way he positioned himself told me everything. He stood near the door, far enough not to overwhelm me, close enough that if someone tried to force their way in, he'd be the first thing they met. The scary part wasn't that he did this. The scary part was that it didn't scare me, comforted me. I sat on the edge of the couch, gripping my knees, trying to swallow the panic clawing at my throat. Daehyun, Junseok said softly. Tell me exactly what you're feeling right now. My voice was barely a whisper. He's close. I can feel it. Junseok tensed immediately. That's the old bond echoing. It reacts when an alpha crosses territory with intent. Intent, I echoed. His jaw tightened, eyes darkening. Meaning he's not here for coincidence. He's here for you. A shiver ran through my spine so violently I hugged myself. Junseok shifted one foot forward, instinctive, protective, but he stopped himself, respecting my space. What do? I whispered. I don't want to see him. I don't want to breathe the same air. You won't. His voice was steady, grounding. I'm here. Something hot pricked behind my eyes. Why did he talk like that? Why did he make it sound like protecting me was a responsibility, not a burden? I shook my head, covering my face. He's stronger than you. I don't care. I froze. Junseok corrected himself more gently this time. I don't care how strong he is. I'm not letting someone who hurt you walk in here. His scent, usually calm cedar, shifted subtly. Warmer, sharper, not aggressive, defensive, an alpha drawing a line. Before I could process it, Junseok's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. Security camera, he murmured. I inhaled sharply. What camera? The studio building has one outside the entrance. The landlord sends alerts to tenants when someone suspicious is hanging around. My stomach dropped. Anne? He turned the screen toward me. A tall figure stood outside the building, hood up, face angled away. But the posture, the broad shoulders, the way his head tilted like he was listening for a scent. I knew it. My blood froze. Min-jae. Even saying his name made my throat close. Junseok's hand tightened around his phone, knuckles white. He's not coming in. How do you know? My voice cracked. Because I will not let him. A painful heat spread through my chest. Fear and relief tangled together so tightly I could barely breathe. Junseok stepped closer, slowly, carefully. Daehyun, he said softly. I need you to trust me. Trust. The word felt fragile, but something in me finally cracked open. I do, I whispered. For the first time, his eyes softened with something like emotion. Quiet, restrained, warm. A A sudden sharp knock made both of us jerk our heads toward the door. Not loud, not frantic. A single, deliberate knock. My heart stopped beating for a full second. Junseok inhaled deeply, scent sharpening. That's him. Couldn't breathe. Junseok motioned for me to move back, and my legs obeyed on instinct. I backed up until I stood by the bedroom doorway, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Another knock. This one harder. Daehyun. The voice outside was cold. Too calm. Like someone who already believed he was allowed to be here. My heart dropped straight to the floor. Junseok placed a hand on the door. Not opening it, just grounding himself. Min-jae. Leave. A low, humorless laugh came through the door. So you're the one. Junseok stiffened but didn't respond. Min-jae continued, voice smooth and poisonous. I could smell him from a mile away. His scent used to break when he cried. Now it's stirring. Warm. Reaching. My knees buckled. I sank against the wall. Junseok's voice dropped into a dangerous calm. Don't talk about his scent. Why not? Min-jae taunted. It was mine once. Not anymore, Junseok said sharply. A pause. Then Min-jae's tone turned colder. You think a fading bond disappears? You think something we shared for years just dies? A tremor shot through my chest. He wasn't speaking to Junseok. He was speaking to me. Daehyun, he said, voice low. Open the door. We need to talk. My throat locked. Not again. Not him. Not now. Junseok's entire body tensed. He doesn't want to see you. Another silence. A soft exhale from Min-jae. His scent says otherwise. I gasped, covering my mouth in panic. He could smell me. From the other side of the door, Junseok's control snapped. He slammed his palm against the door. Don't twist his instincts. Min-jae chuckled darkly. You think you can protect him from something you don't understand? I don't have to understand it, Junseok said, voice low and steady. I just have to protect him. The tension left Min-jae's voice. When he spoke again, it was almost viciously calm. So that's what this is. A new bond. Junseok didn't respond. He didn't need to. Min-jae laughed quietly. You think he can bond? Really bond? After what happened? My hands shook uncontrollably. Daehyun, Min-jae said softly, almost sweetly, almost lovingly, like he wasn't the reason I left in the first place. Come back with me. We can fix this. We can fix everything. Something inside me snapped. No. My voice ripped out of me like a sob. Both men went silent. I stepped forward, my legs weak, my chest burning. No, Min-jae, I whispered hoarsely. I'm not coming back. I don't belong to you anymore. For a moment, there was only silence on the other side of the door. Then Min-jae spoke, voice low and shaking with something dark. You smelled like mine for years. A pause. And now you smell like him? Junseok moved instantly, positioning himself between me and the door even though I wasn't close to it. Get out, Junseok said, voice trembling with restrained fury. But Min-jae wasn't talking to him anymore. Daehyun, he whispered through the door. If you belong to someone else, I'll know. A chill crawled down my spine. Junseok clenched his fists. Leave before I call the police. A shift of air. A single step. Min-jae leaned his forehead against the door. I'll come back, he murmured. And next time I won't knock. Footsteps. Then nothing. Junseok didn't move for a long time. Neither did I. My scent glands throbbed painfully. Fear, relief, longing, confusion all tangled into one. Finally, Junseok turned to me. He wasn't angry. He wasn't tense. He looked heartbroken. Daehyun, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Something inside me shattered completely. I stepped forward. This time, he didn't move away. For a long moment after Min-jae left, the apartment was silent. Not peaceful silent. The kind of silence that falls after a storm tears through a place and everything is still trembling from the impact. I stood there, staring at the door like it might burst open again at any second. Junseok stood between me and the world outside, every line of his body tense. but not shaking, not losing control. Just steady, present, safe, safe. That word kept echoing in my head. Finally, he turned around slowly. Daehyun. He didn't know whether to comfort me or keep distance. So he stayed exactly where he was, halfway, suspended between instinct and respect. His restraint broke something in me more than Minji's anger ever did. "I'm sorry," I whispered, his eyebrows pinched. "Why are you apologizing? For dragging you into this. For putting you in danger. For, you didn't drag me." His voice was steady, firm. "I chose to be here." The simplicity of the words made my throat tighten. But before I could respond, a sharp wave of nausea rolled through my body. My sense spiked, warm and trembling with leftover fear. I stumbled, gripping the couch. Junseok moved toward me, then stopped himself again. "Daehyun," he said softly. "Can I come closer?" I nodded before I could overthink. He approached slowly, like I was made of fragile glass. When he reached me, he didn't touch me. Not even then. He just lowered himself to his knees in front of me so our eyes were level. "Breathe with me," he murmured. I tried, but my lungs felt tight. "Again," he said softer. "Slow." I inhaled shakily, exhaled harder than I meant to. Junseok didn't flinch. He just breathed with me. One inhale, one exhale. Steady, cedar-scented, safe. Eventually, the trembling eased. When my breathing settled, he finally asked, "Did he ever hurt you physically?" My entire body froze. He immediately lifted his hands, apologetic. "You don't have to answer." "I shouldn't have." "No." My voice cracked. "Not physically. Not exactly." Junseok's eyes softened with relief and sadness mixed together. "Then how?" I swallowed hard. "He controlled everything. My scent, my schedule, my friends, my freedom. He never yelled. He never hit. He just suffocated." Junseok's jaw tightened, not with anger at me, but at what had been done to me. "That's violence too," he said quietly. For some reason, hearing that made tears sting my eyes. I wiped them quickly. I thought the bond dying would be enough. I thought leaving would be enough. But tonight, he made it sound like I'm still his. "You're not." His voice was firm in a way I had never heard from him. I looked up, startled. "You're not," he repeated. "Not now. Not ever again." Something inside my chest cracked and released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding for 3 years. "I just want to be free," I whispered. "You are," Junseok said. A silence fell between us, warm this time. Then he spoke again, quietly. "Daehyun, earlier, when your scent reached for me, I want you to know, I didn't take it as a claim." Heat rushed to my face. "I didn't mean to." "I know." He smiled faintly. "And even if you had, I would never take advantage of your fear." My heart squeezed too tight. "But," he continued carefully, "I need to tell you something." I braced myself. Was he stepping back? Was he going to say I was too broken, too complicated? Instead, he said, "When your scent reached out, mine responded." My breath caught. Not possessive, not aggressive, just honest. He held my gaze. "I care about you, Daehyun. More than I expected. More than I should." My heart thudded painfully. "But none of that matters," he said gently. "Unless you feel safe. Unless you want it too." I stared at him, overwhelmed. I had expected every alpha to be like Minjae. Taking, demanding, assuming. Junseok wasn't like that. He was an alpha who asked before crossing a single inch. I exhaled shakily. "I'm scared. I know. I don't know how to do this again. I know. I don't know if I'm ready to bond with anyone. I know." He reached out, slowly, visibly telegraphing the movement, and gently placed his hand over mine. My sense stuttered, flaring softly. I expected him to pull away instantly, but he didn't. He squeezed my hand once. "Then we don't bond," he said softly. "Not now. Not soon. Not until you want it." My throat tightened. "You'd wait." "I'd wait even if it takes years." A tear slid down my cheek at those words. Not because I was sad. but because for the first time, even more than when I left Min-jae, I felt truly free. I squeezed his hand back. Junseok, I whispered, I don't know what I'm ready for. That's okay. But when I was scared earlier, I called your name. He inhaled softly. That means something. He didn't move, didn't pull me into his chest, didn't press his scent against me. He just lifted my hand slowly and pressed it against his heartbeat. His voice was quiet, trembling at the edges. It means you trust me. I nodded, tears slipping quietly. I do. He closed his eyes. One breath, two. Then he whispered, then that's enough. We sat there like that, a scared Omega and a gentle Alpha, hands intertwined, until the sun began to rise over Bukshin's rooftops. The danger wasn't fully gone. Min-jae would try again. He always did. But this time I wasn't alone. I had someone who didn't want to own me, just to stand beside me. Someone who didn't demand a bond, but waited for one to grow naturally. Someone whose presence didn't make my scent shrink, but bloom, slowly, gently, safely. Maybe someday, my heart would heal fully. Maybe someday the bond forming between us would strengthen. Not because of fear, not because of instinct, but because I chose him. And he chose me, not as property, not as possession, but as something new, something equal, something warm, something ours. When the first morning light touched my window, I finally whispered the words I'd been afraid to say. Junseok, can you stay? His answer came without hesitation. Always. And for the first time in years, my scent settled peacefully. Hope you guys enjoy the story. Do like, share, and subscribe.